Hey YouTube, welcome to the Bearded Meat Artist channel. Again, if you like what you see here, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Today we're going to be doing a brisket. So I have a full packer brisket here. This one's roughly 11 pounds, so it's a little on the smaller side. We're going to do this video in 3 different parts. So part 1, I'm going to show how I trim brisket. Part 2, I'm going to show how I set up the 22-inch Weber kettle. And then part 3 will just kind of be the entire cook and the end slicing process. So to start here, we're going to get this trimmed. Now, I'm going to save all of the trimmings that I get off the brisket that I'm going to grind later into sausage, whether it be summer sausage or snack sticks. So none of this is going to go to waste except for maybe some of the decal fat, which really isn't good for much of anything because it's just a little gristly. Now, I probably trim my brisket a little bit further than some will. There's plenty of fat marbling in the meat. You don't need to have a ton of fat on the actual brisket. As far as the outer layer here, you can kind of tell there's a difference between the hard fat and like the pillowy fat underneath it. I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch of that pillowy fat, and that'll stay on the brisket as we go. But a few things to note. So on this side, you can see there's some real hard decal-like fat. We're going to just trim a straight edge here. If you look at the end of the flat, this one's actually cut pretty well. So I'm not really going to do anything with it except for I'm going to trim off some of this real thick hardened fat on the end. That's not going to do anything. And then on this side, you'll also notice part of the reason that we trim straight across here is this is where the cow was split. So this is real tough. This isn't going to do us any good. On the top here, we're going to leave as much of this fat as we can. I'm just going to take some of this off because it's real thick. And we want the flavor and the smoke to penetrate the point underneath. And then on the bottom, there's this little ridge here. So all I'm going to do is just kind of come in at a little bit of an angle and flatten this out a little bit. One, because anything that's here is just going to get just burned and crispy. It's going to be real gristly. You're not going to eat it anyways. 2, I want to make sure that smoke and the rub can get everywhere. So let's get started. There we have it. So here's what brisket looks like when it's all trimmed up. You can see on the side. And then you see on the top, I'm leaving about a 1/4 inch of that, that real pillowy fat. And that will render down some. I'm only really removing the real tough, hardened stuff that's just not going to taste good. I'm going to go with a pretty simple rub. Basically just garlic, salt, pepper. I have a coarse sea salt here. I have a garlic pepper rub. And then I also have a Montreal steak seasoning, which I really like to use on the brisket. It's going to have some red pepper flake, black pepper flake. It also has got bigger granules of garlic in there. And it's a seasoning that I really like on brisket. I did leave a little bit more fat on this brisket than I might normally trim off. This is a pretty lean brisket to begin with from what I can see on the top here. It just wasn't worth trimming any further because I don't want to cut into the meat and leave a bunch of bald spots. So what I'm going to do now is get it rubbed and then just let this sit in the fridge until I put it on the grill later. Now, you can use mustard, you can use nothing. I choose to use a little Worcestershire sauce just to get on the outside of the brisket. It's going to help the rub get stuck on there and stay on there a little bit better. And obviously, Worcestershire's got a good salty, briny flavor, which goes really well with beef. Okay, now our brisket is all rubbed and ready to sit in the fridge until we're ready to smoke it later on the grill.